Ganondorf, the Demon King incarnate, feared by many, but hated by none. The most iconic villain of the Legend of Zelda series has been a part of our lives since the very first game, appearing in his boar-like form. His appearances across various games have showcased the many different facets of his personality, abilities, and the impact on the story. Each game that features Ganon/Ganondorf in it offers a unique take, making some of these choices of mine pretty difficult to rank them all in this video. But with some careful analysis and consideration, I've cooked up the list of Ganon's and Ganondorf's best and worst iterations. That's right, I'll be ranking them based on each one's strength, achievements, cleverness, and lastly, their personality in every game he's featured in. What's up guys, Tactics here with another video for you. Let's not waste any more time and dive right in. Now, in theory, there are people out there who say that there's only really 2 Ganondorfs throughout the timeline, but I'm not really going to be basing them on those iterations of him in the timeline. I'm simply basing this list on the Ganons and the Ganondorfs that appear in that specific game. And even though Ganon and Ganondorf can be viewed as separate entities, it doesn't change the fact that Ganondorf can transform into Ganon in some games. So for games like Ocarina of Time, I am going to be counting Ganon and Ganondorf as one iteration for that particular game. Alright, now with that out of the way, let's start with the worst of the Ganons, being from Oracle of Ages. This version of Ganon is the worst in the entire series, mainly because of the failed execution of a ritual of sacrificing Zelda to resurrect him by Twin Rova. Link was able to foil their plans, and so they decided to sacrifice themselves in order to revive Ganon. However, because of the improvised ritual of sacrificing themselves, what we got was a brain-dead Ganon with only the thought of destruction on his mind. But even in this state, Ganon is still quite powerful, but obviously still nowhere near any of the other versions of him on this list. This Ganon displays none of the qualities that makes him the true king of evil, which is why he is without a doubt at the bottom of my list. The next Ganon on the list is a straight up puppet for the main villain at number 11. We have Hugh Ganon. He's only summoned to allow Hyuga to use the Triforce of Power in the final boss fight. Seeing the King of Evil getting manhandled by this clown of a villain is downright embarrassing, damn near just as bad as being a Brainless Beast for Link to slap around. An absolute joke of a Ganon, especially compared to a Link to the Past Ganon. I just don't have any words for this guy. Let's move on. Next up we have Four Swords Adventures Ganon. This guy is a bit more menacing than his Oracle of Ages counterpart and A Link Between Worlds. Throughout certain parts of the game, you learn a bit about his backstory, hinting at your inevitable showdown with him at the end when the seal is broken. This time he's not some brainless beast, and he's still very powerful with his trusty trident and also magic. But even with his powers, the Four Sword is still capable of dealing significant damage to him, even enough damage to eventually be sealed away by the 7 maidens within the Four Sword. Once again, this Ganon is indeed strong, but it's only a slight step up from the 2 previous iterations of Ganon, because, well, he's just not a complete deadbeat demon king, I guess. Now, this next entry is a little bit of a fun, honorable mention sort of deal. To be honest, I only threw this Ganondorf in here because of his sleek design. Hyrule Warriors Ganondorf looks so badass in this game with so many abilities and attacks. He's able to transform to his demon form and slaughter hundreds of soldiers with ease. When I think of a demon king, this is kind of how I envision most of the time, with him basically being able to slaughter a regular soldier with the flick of his wrist. But as we all know, there's more qualities of Ganondorf that make people love him as a villain other than just his strength. Personally, this Ganon would be much lower on the list as one of the worst, if not for his ability to open up rifts with his trident. We have Echoes of Wisdom Ganon at number 8. This guy has got to be one of the sorriest Ganons ever made. Within the first few minutes of gameplay, this man gets packed up by Link, who's not even using the Master Sword. This Ganon is not very strong, nor does he have any kind of real personality, but I suppose he has to have some intellect to be able to capture Zelda. But as we've all seen before, that doesn't really take much effort. Again, if it weren't for the OP Trident carrying him throughout the game, creating rifts, this guy would be next to the Oracle of Ages Ganon. Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. For the next few entries, these versions of Ganon and Ganondorf are a lot more clever in their way of handling the ops, making them far more threatening, but still fall a bit short in some categories. Much like with another Ganon that we'll get to very soon here, Zelda 1's Ganon is another looming threat over the entire kingdom of Hyrule. The only difference is that we don't get to see that looming threat out in the open or see it in action on screen. Honestly, I think this version of Ganon and the next version of Ganon that we'll be talking about are pretty much on equal footing if you ask me. The only major difference is that it's actually Ganon himself who's in control. The kingdom is filled with his minions, he has the Triforce of Power, and is currently seeking out the pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom that Zelda broke into smaller shards. Unfortunately, Link does beat him to the punch and then winds up defeating him. The only thing that puts this Ganon at number 7 is the fact that Link needs the silver arrows in order to defeat him. And to be honest, I would say that the silver arrows and the Master Sword are basically almost neck and neck when it comes to just raw power. So that's a pretty incredible feat to have to need the silver arrows to be struck down. But I still think the other Ganon that we're about to talk about has a little bit more of a leg up on Zelda 1 Ganon by just a smidge. Speaking of that Ganon though, we have Calamity Ganon. Calamity Ganon is a monster compared to everything else so far, mainly because it's not just some final boss that shows up at the end of the game. No, it's a threatening entity looming over the entire kingdom that can be seen from almost anywhere in the world. Despite not being Ganon himself, Calamity Ganon is still very much a part of Ganondorf. It embodies all the accumulated hatred of this man, forming into an actual creature that can corrupt other monsters, bring them back to life, and even corrupt machines like the Guardians and the Divine Beasts. Speaking of the Guardians though, despite being a creature created by Ganondorf's malice, this thing is pretty intelligent, using the Guardians as well as the Divine Beast against the heroes and even overwhelming Link with an onslaught of powerful Guardians. After all, Link may be a skilled warrior, but he's still human, so wearing him down with numbers was a sound strategy after trapping the champions inside of their respective Divine Beasts, essentially isolating him from all of his other allies except for Zelda. If she hadn't stepped in to save his life, we'd be looking at another potential timeline split where Ganon actually won. Now, you would think that Calamity Ganon would be higher on the list because of all of these achievements, but think again. Most of this happened before the player even gets to play the game. So in my eyes, Calamity Ganon is just a huge shadowy figure that surrounds Hyrule Castle for pretty much the entire game, thanks to Zelda. In context, I understand why Calamity Ganon just floats around the castle. It's because Zelda is holding him back with her powers, but it takes away any real urgency to want to complete the main story. Maybe if the Zelda team gave us some indicator that Calamity Ganon was growing stronger with each Divine Beast we liberated and threatened to break free from Zelda's hold, maybe that would have added a little bit more urgency to the story. So for that, I just can't justify putting it any higher on my list. The reason why this Ganon is above Zelda 1 Ganon though is mainly because of the fact that Calamity Ganon is a part of Ganondorf's malice and cannot truly be destroyed, meaning it can re-emerge after several decades, making it more deadly than most versions of Ganon. And one of the most deadliest things you can be doing right now is watching the video and not being subscribed. So if you're enjoying the video so far, then go ahead and leave a like on it for your boy and subscribe for more content coming your way for Zelda month. I promise it won't cost you a thing. And if there's a specific Ganon or Ganondorf iteration that is your favorite, be sure to let me know what that is in the comments section below. Thanks again, guys. Alright, enough of all of that. Let's get back to the video. Now, these last few Ganondorfs and Ganon iterations are masters of their craft. Whether that might be through their cleverness, the sort of achievements that they are able to accomplish in one game, or they have a god tier personality that just really makes you gravitate to this character. And I can 100% understand why any one of these Ganons or Ganondorf could be one of your favorites. At number 5, we have Twilight Princess Ganondorf. Throughout this game, we are told that Zant is the evil mastermind of all of Midna's struggles and woes, and even though most of her pain and suffering is inflicted by Zant, none of Zant's accomplishments would have been possible without Ganondorf providing him aid. Later in the story, you learn that Ganondorf was meant to be executed by the sages for his crimes, but by some divine prank, Ganondorf was gifted the Triforce of Power, granting him overwhelming strength. Power so incredibly strong that it allowed the guy to even crush the skull of one of the sages with his bare hands. So as a last resort, the sages banished him, thrusting his fragmented body into Midna's world. There he discovers Zant and decides to use him to wreak havoc in Hyrule and drown everything in Twilight. This allows Zant to cause a lot of issues in Hyrule, giving Ganondorf the perfect scapegoat, so to speak, and allowed him to enact his plans to take over Hyrule Castle and eventually the entire kingdom. Even in the final boss fight with him, he uses Zelda as well as his puppet to force a confrontation with Link before having to get his own hands dirty. This is one of the longest final bosses in my opinion in all of Zelda, with a whopping 4 phases to this fight. One with Zelda, then his Dark Beast form that you have to fight using Wolf Link, the horseback battle in Hyrule Field, to the final 1v1 duel. This is one of the most menacing looking Ganondorf designs as well, making him without a doubt a top contender on my list. The threatening nature of Ganondorf does not stop at Twilight Princess, because at number 4 we have Tears of the Kingdom Ganondorf. This is one of the creepiest versions of him. In this game, my man ain't nothing but skin and bones, and he was still trash talking Link in the opening moments of the game, essentially calling Link out and even throwing shade at the Master Sword, saying how weak it was. Much like with Twilight Princess Ganondorf, we learn about this Ganondorf early into the game, but we don't really see him again until it's time for the final confrontation. After regaining his strength, he challenges Link to a duel. My only issue I have with this game's Ganondorf is how he underestimates Link. He fights Link in his base form, not really trying too hard at first until you slap him around a bit. Then he transforms into his Demon King form with the bright red malice-filled hair, making him look the closest to demise, being the original Demon King. Both him and Link are capable of Flurry Rush, making it feel like you're fighting your equal, so you have to change up your style of fighting in order to defeat him. Finally, in the desperate attempt, he transforms into a dragon that requires the help from Zelda to defeat him above the clouds. It's a really cool cinematic fight that is mostly a reward for defeating him in his Demon King form. I could mention everything he did in the memories that led up to the game, like how he basically folded Sonia, making Rauru look like a chump, and leading an army against the Zonai and the Sages, and pretty much bringing them to their knees. But once again, I can't really count that too much since this video is more about what he accomplishes during the actual game. Still, one of the best Ganondorfs to date for sure. A Link to the Past Ganon is the best and strongest Ganon in the entire series, mainly for his accomplishments alone. Right from the start of the game, Ganon gets to work kidnapping the maidens, including Zelda, and warping them to the Dark World thanks to his alter ego, Ganon. Ganon is able to plunge the entire kingdom into darkness thanks to the maidens being held captive. This basically allows him to get his hands on the Triforce and gain immeasurable power. Hence is how the Dark World is formed. It's basically a world kind of created by Ganon where he won and rules the entire kingdom from his castle, still posing as Ganon. Now, it's been a long time since I played the game, but I'm almost certain that that's the plot of the story. This Ganon has basically achieved his goal and has everything he could ever want come true. The only issue is that, well, once again, he underestimates Link, allowing him to upgrade his sword and obtaining the silver arrows to completely destroy him, much like in Zelda 1. Out of the most Ganon appearances, this is a S tier, without a doubt. He's extremely clever, has the full power of the Triforce, and he even has a decent personality thanks to his alter ego Ganon. But he does fall a bit short at the finish line by not being able to defeat Link. 100% my favorite Ganon in the entire franchise though. Got to give a massive thumbs up for making it that far in A Link to the Past. The Ganondorf that most people would say is their favorite would be from Wind Waker, and for good reason. We meet this guy a couple of times throughout our journey to save our sister, and each time it feels like we just ain't good enough. The first time Link becomes a chew toy for the giant chicken in the sky, and the second encounter we think we got a leg up against him this time with the Master Sword, but the blade is dull and can't even scratch Ganondorf's feet. So Link becomes Ganondorf's bitch once again. But our manhood is saved thanks to Tetra. Later we return to Hyrule Castle with the full power of the Triforce of Courage and give Zelda/Tetra the good news. But boom, out of nowhere he beats us to the punch once again and fakes us out by kidnapping Zelda. However, after proving to the gods that we're the hero of the story here, Link battles his way up to the top of Ganon's tower. And it's here we learn a little about Ganondorf's motives, why he wishes to have Hyrule for himself. His people suffered in the desert, so he wanted a better place for them to live. So much so that he became obsessed with the idea. All his careful planning and searching for the Triforce pieces had finally paid off by having Link come rescue Zelda so that all the pieces would come to him. For the first time in history, Ganondorf did not underestimate Link, despite him being just, well, a child. Instead, he strikes before Link could ready a stance, and once again, well, Link becomes Ganondorf's bitch. With the Triforce assembled, this man's wishes would finally be brought to fruition, only to be stopped by the King of Hyrule himself. With the king's words to wash away Hyrule and Ganondorf's dreams along with it, after everything Ganondorf has done up to this point, to be fair, I would go a little cuckoo as well after that. The final battle is a duel to the death with help from Zelda. If you've watched my Zelda videos before, then you know this is without a doubt my favorite Ganondorf fight of all time. Everything about it is just damn near perfect. From the setup to the music, the atmosphere, just absolute cinema. No doubt a worthy contender for the best Ganondorf. The OG Ganondorf from Ocarina of Time was the first time we get to see the human side of the Demon King reincarnated. And even though this Ganondorf may not have the full power of the Triforce or the achievements of some other version of him in other games, he makes up for with his sheer cleverness. Much like with the last Ganondorf, this man is smart and very calculative, worming his way into the king's throne room and gaining the king's favor gave him the perfect opportunity to set up his plans to enter the sacred realm and get the Triforce. Although his plans didn't go quite the way he wanted them to, his abilities to change up his strategy on the fly speaks volumes of his craftiness, such as letting Link open the door of time and pull the Master Sword so he can slip in and obtain the Triforce of Power at least, waiting for even Zelda to reveal herself to Link to obtain the Triforce of Wisdom. It's just another reason that makes this Ganondorf so great. This Ganondorf set the standard for every version of him afterwards to be this clever, menacing, and absolute force of nature almost. Plus, the final boss fight from the original is so close to perfect for the same reason as Wind Waker's final boss fight. I mean, what else is there to really say that hasn't already been said? I actually believe that this is also probably the only game where we see Ganondorf become Ganon as well. Most transformations that Ganondorf takes on in other games is him transforming into some sort of dark beast, but here we literally see him transform into Ganon himself. I mean, even in his human form, this guy's able to use magic and fly. Overall, an absolute elite of the elite, as elite can be, yes, when it comes to one of the best villains in all of video games. Alright, there you have it guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, be sure to smash that like button for your boy and subscribe to the channel for more RPG related content, and of course more Zelda for Zelda month if you haven't already. Check out my previous video for the best instruments in all of the Zelda series if you haven't seen it. Either way, I appreciate you guys all the same, and with that, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.